What is up everyone, this is Michael Wittemann and today I'm going to show you the Royale grind. Alright, before we get into the actual trick and like trying it on a spot, we're going to get into the basics, which is just put on your skates, make sure that they're comfortable, and again, just a quick recap of the last video I did, which is just covering some basic tricks. Since this trick requires some bending of your ankles, knees and hips, let's go through all these three joints because they are the basic joints that you need for skating in general, and you're going to need them especially for this trick. So I personally like my skates to have a bit of a flex, so I'm not like fully tightening the skates up until the point where I cannot like bend sideways at all. I like to have some ankle mobility. If you don't feel comfortable with that, if you rather have your ankles like being fully tightened by the boot, go for it. Just know that you're gonna have to make up for this with your knees and your hips. So basically this trick, the Royale, requires you to go down like a front side in general, but bend one foot down. In my case, like my more convenient foot is the right foot. I'm gonna have to go down like this. And you can tell like there's a lot of like ankle flexion to the side right now going on. There's a lot going on with the knees, and I'm gonna try to like work it all through with the hips too. Like all of these three joints are like doing a lot of work right now. If you would skate your skates untightened, like just go fully open, you could probably just like skip the knees and the hips, but you're gonna definitely feel it in your ankles. And if you're starting out skating, you can tell like you usually don't have like your ankles aren't that bendy and like that flexible. That comes along with time, so I wouldn't recommend going like all the way open with your skates, but like maybe don't have them too tight. Try to find which way works for you. Basically, as long as it feels right for you, it's the right way. As for me, like I said, not fully tightened. I like to have some flex. And also, before you're gonna try this trick, I wanna make sure that you're gonna be comfortable with doing a basic front side or back side, which is just grinding on both of your grooves on one spot. So just like this stance basically, because if you're grinding this way around or this way around, it's gonna take some time to like find the balance, find out like where you distribute the weight. Basically, that's like objectively what I can only say is just try to make sure that your weight is like centered over the spot. That's why the front side is like very convenient to learn, because like if you have your feet like wide apart, just try to make sure that you're like all the weight is straight down in the middle of like centered. As it comes for the Royale, you actually want to go for the same, but you're gonna have to do some tweaking there, because like this one is straightforward basically, but as you do the Royale, you can tell that when you're going down, like your hip is like going further to the side. So what you need to do, I'm gonna like bend like this, or like just turn like this so you can see it. You're gonna want to have to bend your knees forward and to the outside, like forward and outside. That way your hip is still positioned between your skates. As I'm going down like here, I'm gonna try to have my hip still over here basically. If I sit down, that would be somewhere down here. Not over here, because that way you would slip off. Very general fear of trying this trick in the first place, so try to make sure to get comfortable with this position. You don't have to go down this far. You can also like stay up higher, however you want to go. But if you make yourself familiar with this position on flat ground, it's going to make it way easier to translate this to a spot. Also, usually you're going to have to bend down further on on concrete than on the actual spot, because you're gonna have the backslide plate on the side. So this little groove on the side here that will catch you basically in this trick. So if you go down like this and you're comfortable with this, chances are it's going to be way easier to translate this onto a rail or a ledge. So let's go to the spot. For today's spot, I chose this little slappy curb. If you're not familiar with the term slappy, I'm gonna explain it in a bit with a trick example, which is very convenient with this trick in general. One good thing about this spot is that someone, and it was actually really not me this time, prepped this spot, and so it's like pretty slick on the top. I'm gonna make sure I wax it up to here. I'm gonna put the camera down, because right here I'm gonna do the Royale with both feet just to show. But as you can see, like if I'm, whoa, I already waxed it. So if I'm going on to the Royale, you can tell like there's plastic touching all the way up onto the spot up until here. And everywhere where plastic touches the spot, you want to have it waxed, period. It's not about skating flat or anti-rocker, which is if you're going to have same size wheel in the middle and on the outside, or no wheel in the middle, whatever. If plastic or urethane touches the spot, you need wax here. So that's why I waxed it up till here, I think, actually, for convenience. So make sure to do that. It's also going to help us with the right weight distribution, and there's also a bit of a like regular size ledge right here, which also has like filled up cracks, which is very convenient. This one has been fixed terribly because you can already tell, like I got stuck here as I was trying to do a Royale, and like my wheel got caught in this mess. So not ideal, but actually pretty nice to have not only this slappy but the regular ledge. So this video is not sponsored by any tripod manufacturer, so I'm gonna have to work with what I got, but it's good enough to showcase the trick and how I approach it. So I got my spot waxed. I am very comfortable with the positioning of a Royale. Now what I'm gonna do, first couple tries, I'm just gonna like come at this spot at an angle and try to get my weight onto the spot. And by that, I mean, as I tried to explain in the last video, I'm gonna try to get my hips as far onto the spot as I physically can. One thing about this trick, which I showed you before, is as you go down and your knees bend forward, that also means weight goes forward, which also means that your hips have to go back a little again. So your hips cannot fully be over the spot, over the skates, but try to push them as far forward as you can. One thing that could happen if you get too far is you're gonna slide onto the top of the ledge, which is a very good way to save yourself if you miscalculate a jump on or just the trick itself. So I'm gonna try to showcase this to you. Gonna try to approach at almost a 90-degree angle. Get up there. And that's about it. If you get comfortable with this position, like once you get down this far, this is basically it. This is not like rocket science or anything, even though at first it might feel like this, because I remember trying this trick as a kid and it would just be a lot of trial and error. And what would happen to me a lot is just like I would jump on, like fully miscalculated like this, and just have my feet slip off. And that's because I thought I could like counteract this like bending movement by positioning my right feet further to the front, you know, like actually going down like this. If you try to do this, you're gonna notice that you're gonna slip away a lot. Different point, if you try to lean forward too much, it's gonna make it way harder to put pressure on this foot and like actually push this push the skate down. And this is gonna introduce one of the most important terms in skating, which is boot down. You want to be boot down, which is boot down to the curb. And this case, it's actually the curb, which I love. So 90-degree angle actually now. Get down. I can feel the resistance of the curb touching the boot. One thing about this trick, which I really like, is if you do it, this is like a very good practice to like have a good solid stance when you're doing any like ledge tricks, because this one actually gives you a lot, like the spot gives you a lot of response when you're grinding. As you get on top and you feel that your frame and your boot are touching the ledge, you feel every single bump. This is an amazing feeling, just because you can like actually tell how well your stance is by like counteracting all those little bumps, all those little imperfections of the spot. Also a reason why I prefer to try this trick or learn this trick on a street ledge, or just like any stone, curb, ledge, whatever. So that's all the things for the approach. As you get more comfortable, you can try to get more of a parallel approach to actually keep as much of the speed as possible. You wanna actually like use all the speed of the run up to be on this ledge, curb in this case, sorry. And then once we have that, we have the run up, we have the stance and the trick. Now going off of the trick, you can tell usually going fakie is easiest because you just need to jump back. Going forward is easy if you're going on a rail and you can jump over. One very important thing, and this is just to maintain some integrity, keep the pressure of this Royale foot down. As long as you're on this ledge, you want to curb, sorry. As long as you're on this curb, you want to have this boot down. Boot down, get off. I don't want to see. That's not a Royale. So yeah, boot down, off. Some people like to put emphasis on this and like lift the front foot in order to like showcase that this boot down is still there. This on its own would be called a backslide, which I'm not going to get into any further right now. But this is everything considering a frontside Royale, from the approach to the landing. So best make sure to be comfortable just rolling forward and fakie for the landing. Make sure that you're comfortable with the frontside stance. Make sure that you wax your spot properly and that you feel comfortable in your skates itself. Just comfortable enough to try to like get your ankles to bend, your knees to bend, your hips to bend. If you're a younger viewer, I'm very happy for you. If you're an older viewer, just make sure to stretch properly and warm up, because if you give yourself at least like 10 to 15 minutes warming up, doing some stretching, just like try to get down, get your knees to bend, your ankles. Don't forget to get like a good, like to bend your, like to stretch your calves, because the forward flex movement is also important for this trick particularly. You want to be bending forward and to the side, as I said multiple times now. One thing I haven't mentioned yet, which is fairly important, is I've covered a lot of like the ankle and the knee mobility. It's also about the hips, because with this trick, unlike all the macchio variations that I covered before, your hips need to be like fully facing the spot. Like you're, don't try to bend your hips forward, to face forward. This is all in the upper body. Everything from hip upwards can like look like this, but the hips need to face the spot. Allow your hips to actually be facing like this as you are just looking over your shoulder to see where you're going. Because if you try to like bend your, like get your hip like this, you're gonna have that forward facing Royale, which can have some steez. It can have some unique steez factor to it, but it would also lose a lot of the stability. And let's be honest, usually it doesn't really have steez, so no, you don't want to do that. It also requires you to be way more accurate with your body positioning. This is a very awkward angle. I haven't covered the backside Royale at all yet, which is also because I am not terrific at this trick, honestly. Never really gotten into it, but many people like to do this as their actual safety trick rather than the frontside Royale. So only other thing about this trick is that instead of like facing towards the spot, you're gonna have your toes facing away. One thing that really comes to show when you're doing this trick is you're gonna have to jump higher than the spot. You wanna come onto the spot from the top. The frontside Royale usually invites you to be a bit lazy and like do half jumps, whereas the back Royale usually wants you to jump on top. This can be a really good thing because you are forced to, first of all, you're forced to jump, which isn't really much of a thing at this particular spot, but it doesn't matter. It's more about like actually just like jumping higher and aiming from the top while also giving yourself a bit of time to adjust your positioning. So I'm jumping, like I'm gonna try to exaggerate this right now, but I'm gonna jump, adjust, down. Of course I didn't grind at all right now, I didn't even try. I'm gonna try to do this while rolling. So gonna jump and away. One thing that a lot of people like about this trick is that once you get comfortable, you can actually like, you can have your hips over the spot and just be like sitting down almost. And this is one of the tricks that you can see people hold on forever. There's countless clips of people just like doing back Royales for ages basically. Okay, two more things I forgot to add. I'm just gonna be focusing on this. You don't have to see me completely, but anyways, if you have, like me, like if you only have like a spot that is fairly low, you're gonna see that it's gonna be a bit harder to actually get this whole like bending down thing to work. Usually if you have a higher spot, it forces you to actually like bend your knees, flex your hips and all that. So one very easy trick that I try to put into place right here is I'm just gonna approach and like with my hips lowered already. So this might look weird if you try it for the first time, but you're just gonna like roll down like this and then you're already down, you know? So it's kind of like forcing yourself to make the spot higher than it actually is. So you're gonna go down. This still is a great exercise for me to just push myself to go further down than I'm used to. That didn't count. All right, and one last thing before I end this off. Why is this called a slappy? Simply because you can do a slappy, which is a term I think originated from skateboarding, but it is also very easily pliable on inline skates. And this basically just means you're not jumping on the spot on this curb, but you're slapping your skates on if it were. So this completely counteracts the point of me saying that you need to jump higher than the spot. It's completely the opposite. but it's actually pretty fun to do. And the Royale is usually the easiest trick to do. So instead of jumping, you're just leaning back, and you're just gonna like lean back and lift your toes up and pray that you're gonna land in your groove. You're gonna approach at more of an angle than you're gonna do usually, and that angled approach, if you will, forces your weight to get on top of the ledge. So you're gonna do and that is all I can add for now to the Royale grind. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it's going to help a couple of people to just get more comfortable into approaching this grind, which is, if you get used to it, a fairly safe trick, but a very high rewarding trick, and probably one, I don't remember the last session where I haven't done one. So it's going to be always included everywhere, and for a reason. Also, a couple of people noticed it, but I'm going to leave my Patreon link in the description below, as well as I'm going to just link the last like basic trick tip tutorial. Thank you for all my Patreon supporters for the continuous support. You can also join as a free member. You don't have to pay anything. It's just about like building up a community, just a bit of a whole group where you can like share ideas about skating and kind of like be in a more intentional, skating purpose driven place, if that made any sense. Also, for all the skate nerds, this is the setup that I am skating right now. This is my own pro boot, Michael Witzemann Sways, which you can still get at powerslide.com. I'm going to leave the link in the description. I'm skating the Icon AG60 frames with my Red Eye Signature wheels, 55 millimeters, and you can get this exact same setup on powerslide.com. Thank you everyone that bought it so far. Thanks for supporting me, and not much more to add to this. Thank you for tuning in, and keep skating.